On September 24th, 2025, Ryuga Gotoku Studio announced Yakuza Kiwami 3, a long-awaited remake of the third, technically fourth entry in the Yakuza series. A legendary story-driven arcade brawler franchise about Kazuma Kiryu, ex-Yakuza member whose criminal past keeps on making itself known. One of Kiwami 3's most hype announcements was the brand new combat system. Clearly a combination of 2009's Yakuza 3, 2016's Yakuza 6, and 2023's The Man Who Erased His Name. Three fairly divisive games. However, due to various controversies surrounding the upcoming release, this new combat system, despite various first-look analyses, faded into irrelevance. On January 21st, 2026, Sega published a demo of the game, meant to sell players on this brand new experience. This is the moment that I got my hands on this brand new combat system, and it is based on 3 games I previously covered. So, I got a lot to say. So, in today's video I will try to explain what in my opinion made each of these 3 games work in the first place, and how Kiwami 3 in my opinion fails at almost anything it tries to achieve from a combat perspective. Also, hi! It's been a while, but that's because I've had an accident and I've been working on a fairly large project. I thought I was done with Yakuza for a while, but this one is a one-of-a-kind disappointment. I had to come back. So, before going over Kiwami 3 move by move, let's start by briefly looking at its inspirations, where each of them peaks and where each of them can be improved. I wanted to make this video a lot shorter, but I've seen a lot of people dismissing Kiwami 3 criticism as just engagement bait. So I decided to be as thorough as possible. So let's get on with it. Yakuza 3 was the team's first attempt at bringing the fist fighting into the 7th generation of consoles. After Kenzan, the samurai spin-off had set the proper framework. The issue? Well, they had 8 months to cook up the game. Short development cycles is one of the reasons why early Yakuza games can be described as iterating on old systems. Yakuza 1 had pretty good crowd control with good grabs, right hooks having a weirdly long range, and a fun meter system that rewarded you for playing aggressively, as it would quickly run out when playing it safe. Everything else was wonky at best. Bosses would easily slip out of combo strings, and the game weirdly locked crucial abilities behind side content progression. So Yakuza 2 took the good parts of fighting in Yakuza 1 and sped it all up. Your strings became faster and much more accurate. Reversals, which are attacks based on turning around mid a combo strings, became usable from the start, which matters a lot. It is actually game changing. So how did Yakuza 3 iterate on that? Well, some of the designers certainly played a couple of Tekken sets and realized that Kiryu's body hook looks like Kazuya's while standing too. For the first time in Yakuza history, launchers have been introduced. Airborne enemies can be juggled, which is more and more difficult as you get more hits in. To combat this, a number of combo resets are available to you, one of them being even explained by Komaki, Kiryu's master. Although Yakuza 3 Kiryu only received about 4 new attacks, the feel of the game shifted drastically, as almost every move either wall splats or launches. Unlike Yakuza 2, every combo string in 3 has a double heavy extension that switches up its functionality. All of these new properties combined encouraged the player to experiment more. Environments became more than just a background with maybe some items to throw at enemies. You are constantly forced to make a number of decisions to maximize your damage. This is especially true in the remastered version of the game, which has the enemy AI always set to extreme hard, no matter what difficulty you're actually playing on. If you don't know what reversals are, then good luck, buddy! Although the game had a lot to praise, there was a lot that I didn't like. For most of the game you actually move slower than in Yakuza 2, which you can especially feel when turning around mid-combo. None of the new abilities target crowd control, and the changes made to heat were The meter gain was pretty weak, and none of the new hit actions flow with the juggling system or wall combos. The reward for engaging with the mechanic was also unbalanced, as on normal enemies it was almost always a guaranteed kill, whereas on bosses it dealt less than a 1-2. Yakuza 3 was a rocky but required stepping stone for the franchise to move forward. Despite its number of issues, I do think that it works on its own. Once you reach the flow state, using all of its systems in tandem, you get a really solid experience. A combat system that rewards dedication, that encourages experimentation. I can tell you what are its highlights, but also where it can be improved. So let's move on to inspiration number 2. Yakuza 6, The Song of Life, was designed completely differently. First of all, the base moveset had flaws built into it. Your combo strings had good range, but if you went for the double extension, there was a significant gap in between attacks, leaving you vulnerable. Reversals didn't have this issue as they flow perfectly with even more of a reach, but you having to turn around to use them made them a lot more situational. Your attacks accessible from a dodge did stagger enemies for longer, but were noticeably slower than they used to be. Throws had more collateral reach than ever, in exchange for being slower than ever. There was no move that solved everything. Juggling enemies has been removed. No more launches in a traditional sense. The lack of mid-air juggling doesn't mean that environments are meaningless. Wall splats became a tool related to stunning enemies, leaving them open for guaranteed follow-ups. Improvements made to reversals cannot be overstated. They are wider than ever, and all of them can be extended into a double finishing blow, doubling the damage. There is a powerful hidden move only accessible when your hit gauge has at least 4 bars left. It's got a lot of potential, but it forces you to pay close attention to your heat consumption. Okay, that sounds like a lot of useful stuff. Is there more? Well, just wait and see. Kiryu has been given abilities from his closest allies. Yakuza 4 and 5 featured a number of playable characters with vastly different gameplay styles. All of them had their game plans based around powerful abilities at their disposal. Kiryu gets Saijima's charged heavy attacks, but they are not nearly as earth-shattering as the OGs. You simply get a guard break with a guaranteed follow-up. Kiryu's parry copy-pasted from Tanimura doesn't wall splat and doesn't last an entire century, but still guarantees him a number of free hits afterwards. Kiryu's dodge cancel is not as cracked as Akiyama's, but it's strong enough to double the fun. Hit-related abilities also have a lot more sauce in Yakuza 6. Taunting was not implemented, most likely because it would be too strong in conjunction with the rest of Hit. The damage to normal enemies is deadly like in Yakuza 3, and the damage to bosses is actually noticeable. How nice! What are the saucy Hit abilities? Well, how about a devastating wrestling throw on a writhing enemy? A powerful follow-up to a hard-to-land move. The Hit truly lives up to its name. So, Yakuza 3 and 6 are kind of polar opposites. 3 succeeds at making each move count thanks to their properties, due to launchers and wall bounce giving you crazy combos, but has fairly weak hit and not that much variety to offer, whereas 6 has an absurd amount of variety, saucy hit, but no launchers and no mid-air combos. So a combination of these two titles does sound great, doesn't it? Just imagine the best of both worlds. Well, that was the goal of Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who erased his name. At a surface level, this is it. Yakuza 6 combat, but with launchers. There have been some additions, for example you can extend your combo strings into a triple finisher, which has an even longer wind-up but with an even better reward. But the nanosecond you examine what's actually happening there, the cracks start to show. So, no regular finishing blow launches, only the charged counterpart of some of them. Okay, this makes sense as a charged finisher is more risky than a regular finisher, since you can get interrupted. However, in Gaiden all of your charge attacks are uninterruptible. The risk in going for them has been removed. Frankly, there is no reason to not go for them every single time. In exchange, combos have been nerfed. There are no combo resets and walls don't really care about your juggles. You can wall splat, but it's separate from launchers. Also, a limit has been placed on your combos, but it wasn't typical fighting game scaling, where the longer your combo goes on for, the less damage each hit deals. The moment the enemy is launched, a timer starts, and the moment it hits the 6-second mark, the enemy will fall onto the ground no matter what. The combo game is not as good as Yakuza 3, but at least it's there compared to 6. Unlike 6 though, the variety is not there yet. You cannot grab enemies into a chokehold anymore, the hidden hit attack is gone, the Tanimura parry is gone, hit itself suffered especially, since many of 6's best hit actions have been removed. The gain on it is also weak, in my opinion even weaker than in Yakuza 3. All of this arsenal came from one of the two fighting styles available to you. Yes, so the Yakuza 6 moveset was relegated to the Dragon style, also known as the Legend style, this time titled the Yakuza style? Personally, I would just keep the 6 in there. Agent style is supposedly the other half of the combat system, but there is not much to it.
Throwing flashbang.
Agent has barely any launchers, and its 007 gadget repertoire is surprisingly boring as fuck. However, the style's pressure against bosses is immaculate. Agent has two sets of quick-step attacks, light and heavy. This might look redundant, but their use cases are different. Quick-step into light attack can be transitioned straight into the basic combo string. This is how you apply constant pressure. Quick step into heavy attack is a single attack, either inflicting knockdown or inflicting a fuckton of stagger to the enemy. This is how you get some breathing room. You can also perform these powerful counters from a dodge. It's dope. So, Gaiden, the man who almost had a good game, the combination of two games that didn't end up being the best of both worlds. However, even after all of this complaining from me, I can still bring myself to say that the combat found in it is competent. It's a metric ton of unfulfilled potential, but the basics do work. There are a ton of moves and a lot of them do have a purpose. Simply put, it's fine. Middle of the road. So when RGG Studio announced Kiwami 3, they blessed us with a minute and 18 seconds of edited down gameplay footage, clearly showing us that the remake of Yakuza 3 will be their second attempt at combining the third game with Yakuza 6 and a bit of Gaiden. Instead of just hinting at the direction they were going for, we can clearly see Kiryu using moves from each of those games. You know, iterating on old systems. So, how is it? Well, if Gaiden wasn't the best of both worlds, then Kiwami 3 is the absolute worst. Before we start, I need to do a quick preamble. This analysis is based on the demo version, so keep two things in mind. 1. This version of the Dragon style has things intentionally left out of it, and that's fine. I'm not gonna complain about the style missing the ability to taunt enemies, as there is evidence of it being an upgrade they omitted showing in the demo. The same goes for the Tiger Drop, as it's meant to be a late game upgrade. However, you're about to see that counters and the taunt are the only abilities not in place, as there are no more buttons left. This demo style has the most moves that a single fighting style ever had. Therefore, I think judging it is worthwhile. 2. The game is not finished yet, so there will be some jank. For example, this throw meant for hitting multiple people doesn't actually hit multiple people. So I will mostly ignore the bugs, unless it's really funny. The fuck was that? The point of the video is to analyze the team's intentional design. With that in place, let us begin. Let's start with the basics of the Dragon style. Combo A is the body shot into a Superman punch from Yakuza 6, except it's a lot faster and the extension no longer knocks back. These attacks simply stagger the enemy now. Combo B is from the original Yakuza 3, except the hook to the gut no longer launches, and the following knee no longer knocks down. Same effects as the last one. Okay. Combo C is the Yakuza 3 uppercut, except it no longer knocks down and its extension no longer launches. Oh no. Combo D is from 3 once again and the first kick no longer knocks back. Oh no. And the rolling thunder kick no longer launches, but it does knock down. Finally, an actual property. So This is not a good start. However, I just played a little bit of Gaiden, and in that game each move shifts drastically when charged. So I tried doing this. Well, combo A and B don't change at all when charged. They just don't. Combo C's uppercut is also unchanged, but the extension when charged actually launches now. The same goes for combo D, so your basic combo strings have less utility than ever. But that's not all. As for the first time ever, Dragon Style gets a combo E, a fifth combo string, 2 kicks. The first one simply deals damage once again, and the second hit knocks back. Charging it does not affect anything. Oh boy. So what about the reversals? Yakuza 3 reversals were not special by any means, but they were able to launch. Yakuza 6 pushed them towards insane crowd control, and Gaiden added back the ability to launch to the same reversals when charged. So what about Kiwami 3? Well, they are all the same, except the range is a lot worse. But the first one launches on normal hit for some reason. This is the first one I noticed. Oh no. These reversals also do have quick knockdowns on normal hit, unlike their forward counterparts. But performing them is really awkward. You see, Kiryu is at all times very aggressively corrected to auto-aim at enemies in close proximity, even when you're not locked onto anything. Not only that, but also your range will be corrected, sliding you slightly towards the enemy. This is specifically bad when it comes to reversals, as the angle from which you start the string affects if the game transitions it into a front-facing combo or a reversal. Good properties being locked behind reversals in this case is not as much of a skill check, as it is more of an annoyance. But don't worry, cause there are more strings. Front kick can be extended into this jump kick, and none of this knocks down. If this move had a wall splat mechanic implemented to it, like either Yakuza 3, 6 or even Gaiden, then yeah, I would see a reason for this existing. But in the state that it currently is, not really. What's the difference between this and a couple of regular attacks? That's a great question. If you're already tired of redundancy, then say hello to 2 sets of quick-step attacks. However, this is not like Agent's version of this dual system. You see, the set under the light attack category is based on Yakuza 3, while the set under the heavy attack category is based on Yakuza 0's brawler style. You may ask, Hyber, isn't the brawler set supposed to be an unrefined version of Yakuza 3's set? With very similar functionality, only differing in range? Yeah! Well, you see, there has to be some hidden reason for this. Oh, maybe it's this. In this clip I triggered a brutal single enemy heat action after the heavy brawler quickstep attack. So maybe the OG quickstep attack triggers a different heat action. Maybe it targets multiple enemies at once and that's the use for it. No! So why are there 2 of these? There is a reason why they are separate and it's pretty stupid. But first we need to go over Dragon's last 2 combo strings. Well, not really dragons, as they are actually stolen from different styles. Holding down the light attack button will cause Kiryu to begin his beast style combo string from Yakuza 0. So you hold down the button, which is a universal charge starter, to throw out an uncharged attack, and afterwards you can either tap the button for the weak version, or you hold down the button for extra damage and a launch property. Why doesn't the first hit count as a charge? It's so weird. Don't worry, the heavy attack is even more evil and fucked up, as once again you can only start it by holding down the button for a regular attack. But only the third hit can be charged. This shit is so soggy that I don't know even how to explain this. These two combo strings are the reason why there are two sets of quickstep attacks. By holding down the button for a quickstep attack, after that attack finishes, Kiryu will automatically transition into the chosen combo string. Yakuza 3 quickstep into the beast combo, and the brawler quickstep attack into the agent combo. Why does the refined attack transition into the rough combo, and the rough attack into the refined combo? I don't know. This stance transition would be cool if there was anything unique about those strings. It could look cool in a combo, if you could actually combo, but I'm not going there yet. Let's quickly talk about the one thing I like about the dragon style. The grabs are actually well thought out. After grabbing an enemy, you can punch a dude thrice, swiftly throw him behind you for some collateral, as swiftly throw him forward for a collateral, or swing them around for the biggest collateral in exchange for safety, as this swing is significantly slower than its original version, making it less safe to use. This is the only part of the Dragon of Dojima moveset that actually clicks. Each option you can go for has a reason to be there. It has a real function. If the entire style was designed like this, then I would have nothing to complain about. That is not the case. Almost all of these moves are interchangeable, with combo strings having the exact same effect, with quickstep attacks having variations for how angry you want to look. And all of this with only a single bar of heat, barely any heat action variety, and actually awful heat gain. Now, respectfully, I think the heat actions that you do have access to don't even matter, as you get access to one of them every 6 defeated enemies. There were some whole fights when the bar didn't even fill up once. To combat this awful heat gain, the devs put in a brand new mechanic, Dragon Boost. Dragon Boost is a second gauge at your disposal, but what's locked behind it is nothing new. Once the meter is full, you can enter Dragon Boost for the ability to use bounding throws, a Kiryu staple move. Since the good old Yakuza 1, you were able to press the grab button after a finishing blow. Kiryu just knocked some guy's teeth out, so he grabbed his leg on the way down for one last concussion. Or in this clip where Kiryu uses the uppercut as a setup for a wrestling giant swing. This system was not only useful, but most importantly, it looked cool. Yakuza 6 has made some controversial changes to this. As I showed to you previously, that game already had a number of powerful wrestling throws, which drained your heat. So to avoid redundancy, RGG changed up bounding throws. They were significantly weakened in exchange for both not draining heat anymore and being one of the first unlockable upgrades. You can use them from the very first chapter of the game. The way they went about this was not perfect, But I think we can all agree that there was an idea there. We can see the train of thought behind these decisions. We're adding in some new wrestling moves, so we gotta make some changes to the old ones. Gaiden is where this gets wonky once again. The devs got rid of 6's new wrestling moves, so they slightly buffed bounding throws, at the cost of locking them behind heat once again. This is where the train of thought started losing me again, but don't worry, it gets worse. Bounding throws locked behind the Dragon Boost in Kiwami 3 are not the Yakuza 6/Gaiden throws. These are the classic Yakuza 3 throws. Okay. Except keen-eyed viewers might notice that there is something fishy going on there. That's because this throw didn't trigger after a finishing blow, but after a light attack. Yeah, so how does this work with the input? Well, the input was simplified. You no longer have to press heavy attack into grab. You simply press the heavy attack button when in Dragon Boost and Kiryu will do this automatically. You may also ask, wait, what about the giant swing? It follows up an uppercut. Without the finishing blow there, the animation just doesn't work. So, was it changed? No! The enemy simply begins to fly for no reason, because that's where he would be after the uppercut, and then the animation resumes as usual. This not only feels awkward to perform, but most importantly, it looks ugly. Figuring out this new input took me a while actually. That's because the first bounding throw would not trigger for the life of me. The jawbreak into concussion, you know the one. I thought it was bugged as the combo A originates from Yakuza 6, where B, C and D come from Yakuza 3. I thought that this disparity caused some bugs in the programming department. But no, it wouldn't trigger because it was actually moved to the brand new combo E. Instead of making a new bounding throw animation for the new attack, they simply moved one of the throws around. This is so unfinished that I'm slowly going crazy. Although the Dragon Boost is easily the most unfinished part of the Dragon style, it is not the worst. Don't worry, Combo A still has a purpose in Dragon Boost. You see, its Superman Punch is actually one of the two Kiryu moves that can wall splat. Yes, one of the two! The other one is surprisingly the brand new combo E. The jump kick at the end does wall splat. From what I saw, the unused in the demo Tiger Drop also wall splats, but I didn't get to try it. That's cool that this new combo actually has a purpose, but why doesn't this jump kick wall splat? Or this knee, or this shoulder tackle, or this forward grab? It's incredibly limited. So what about the real launches and mid-air juggling on its own? Well, when I started playing the game for the first time, I quickly went through all Gaiden launchers I could think of, and quickly realized that none of them are launching anymore. Why is that? Then one of the launchers actually worked. Oh fuck. The cap on combo length is 2 seconds. 2 seconds! The only way I can look at this is that they weren't sure how to balance the game in the time frame that they were given. So no player completely breaks the game. This looks like a last-ditch effort before the release. Unfortunately, this limit makes all launchers pointless to use. Tell me this, why take the risk for 2 guaranteed hits that you could also get by simply pressing heavy? What makes launchers special in Kiwami 3? Nothing! Better yet, why bother dealing with launchers when some of your most basic attacks are incredibly easy to loop, trivializing every fight. But the funny thing is, sometimes the 2-second airtime cap doesn't trigger. These are the same two sequences side by side. I've seen examples before of people dropping combos because of a bug, but never not dropping because of a bug. Almost all of the moves have been toned down to such a ridiculous degree that many of them lose their only purpose. Take a look at this silly kick from Yakuza 3. I made fun of it before and got yelled at by Yakuza 3 fans. This silly kick is extremely hard to land, but if you do land it, most likely as a counterattack, you're rewarded with a stun. Wow, that was the point of this move. In Kiwami 3 it is easier to land because of the increased gravity between Kiryu and enemies. So the stun ability is gone, as it would be unbalanced, so it became pointless. Why would you ever go for it? The same goes for almost every move. The hook to the body used to crumple enemies since Yakuza 1, giving you free damage afterwards. No longer does. The Superman punch from 6 used to send enemies way back, giving you a ton of space. No longer does. So what's the point in actually thinking about what you're doing in Kiwami 3? Since most of your arsenal does the same thing anyways. There is no point. It was removed alongside the entire identity of Dragon Style. It's dog shit. Analyzing the design of Dragon has me asking myself very basic questions. I didn't think that a fumble of this degree could be possible. Kiryu also has access to a whole weapon-based moveset, titled the Ryukyu style. There are a lot more very similar issues with it as with Dragon style. However, respectfully, I don't care about weapons in a fist fighting game. So, this will be your homework for today. Look at every move Ryukyu style has to offer. Analyze what each of them brings to the table and then leave a comment with your opinion about it. I will not cover it, as there is one more style this game has to offer. A style on paper much more in line with Dragon, but much more saucy upon closer inspection. Let's talk about Mine. Yoshitaka Mine is the protagonist of Dark Ties, a bonus campaign attached to Kiwami 3 for marketing purposes. Mine's combat style, despite sharing a lot of the same issues as Kiryu's, is a lot more promising. I'll be judging this with the same rules in mind as the Dragon style. It's not complete, but there is enough to get the idea of what they were going for. First of all, Mine is a lot faster. You can tell that he's putting more technique than spirit into every attack, unlike his main game counterpart. Unlike the base game, your arsenal is a lot tighter. Instead of 5 different sets of double finishers that all virtually do the same thing anyways, Mine gets Asuka's back 3, pretty evasive, which can be followed up with a quick punch or a jumping knee. There is also a string ending with a wide as fuck roundhouse kick, which weaker version is accessible to you at any moment with the standing heavy attack. Last but not least, a launching uppercut. Breaking news! Either Dark Ties is designed fundamentally differently from Kiwami 3, or the game is bugged to shit. That's because the 2-second airtime limit seems to be non-existent. From my testing, not a single combo dropped prematurely. I don't know how the fuck this is happening, but it's awesome, yeah. Since I mentioned before some unused moves in the demo for Kiryu, I have to mention that people found evidence of Mine possibly getting a launching parry. This would give Mine some immediate utility. Oh wait, he actually has a lot of that. The wall splat is no longer relegated to the 7th hit of a combo string. That's gonna kill the enemy before the wall splat anyways. All you need is his charged jumping knee. Nice! His charged double backhand also has a stunning property to it, which I look at as this game's interpretation of crumple. It kinda looks the same. The enemy's tummy hurts and this keeps them in place for more attacks. Cool. Mine's charged attacks also follow a simple rule that they ignored when designing Kiryu. First, take a look at Mine's quick-step attacks. He also gets 2 sets of those. Light attacks are punches, which are very quick, and heavy attacks are kicks, slower in exchange for more reach. They are not only easily discernible when it comes to utility, unlike whatever the fuck they were doing with Kiryu, but also they are visually distinct. Light attack makes a punch come out, while the heavy makes you kick. This is consistent with quick-step attacks and charged attacks, which makes the transition from one to the other looking much more intended. This just looks right. This rule is also the case with the follow-ups to the Kazuma style retreating kick. It's almost the case with his combo strings as well, but there is one light attack kick in there and one heavy attack punch. I wish they just fully committed to one button being meant for punches and one for kicks, the same way the PSP spin-off games work. This would differentiate Mine from Kiryu even more, but that's also pretty alright as it is. As Mine has no wrestling background, his grabs are a lot simpler. Pressing the button while standing still simply makes him throw the enemy with no variations for direction. However, there is a variant when running, which looks cool. Personally, I find this simpler by comparison toolkit much more engaging. You can weave around the enemy for a quick step attack that you can transition straight into the stunning back fist. While the enemy is stunned, go for the charged kick as his back is pressed against a wall. If there is no wall, then maybe just throw his ass. There is a lot more decision making than when playing as Kiryu, who can deal damage, and that's kinda it. Mine's equivalent of Dragon Boost is also much better executed. Dark Awakening. Mine unleashing his ultimate form stemming from his frustration mid-battle by breaking chains holding him back looks corny as hell. Despite this silliness, I like its role. He's finally putting in more spirit than technique, which adds to the spectacle, as every of its combo strings ends with a cinematic burst of anger. Most of his animations in this state have been reworked to be appropriate as well. Is this form of the character shallow? Wouldn't it be nice if Unleashed Mine also had his own separate launchers and specific drawbacks to using this state? Yes, but that's not the point. The point is that it's supposed to be a quick burst of power coming from a burst of anger, and it achieves exactly that. I think it's good enough. The MMA style is not perfect though. The heat is still ass and barely worth paying attention to. Moreover, I have a big gripe specifically with them bringing back an old piece of movement and removing its ties to movement itself. Let me explain. You see, in the Judgment series, its protagonist Yagami was designed with more emphasis put on movement. You could slide under enemies, leap over them, jump above them, or run onto a wall and jump off of it. Each of these adding more combat possibilities. For Dark Ties, designers decided to give Mine an ability to jump between enemies. Not onto a wall though. The thing is, they removed the movement compartment from it. For Yagami to leap over the enemy, you simply had to run into him. In Dark Ties, you have to hold down the grab button for Mine to enter this jumping state. The control scheme for this ability sucks now, as there is a delay since you have to wait until the game decides to begin the animation, from the moment you start holding the button down. Mixed Mine art style is definitely a step in the right direction, especially compared to what Kiryu is getting. But the issues with it are still very noticeable, as certain moves are once again very easily loopable and certain abilities are very jank. The jank is everywhere, as knife enemies slide across every arena, because someone sets the wrong amount of force to their thrusts. Bosses also are seemingly fully immune to knockdowns and wall splats, which, to be frank, fucking sucks. What's the point in using these moves against them? Even if all of my issues specific to Mine were fixed on release, I still wouldn't be able to recommend the game anyway. There is just too much wrong with it. If these two campaigns were sold separately, then maybe, but that's not happening. Some of you watching may be asking themselves some basic questions. How did the studio that just 5 years ago released one of the best pieces of 3D combat make this pile of dog shit? Well, Lost Judgment and its DLC campaign, Kaito Files, similar to what Dark Ties is to Kiwami 3, were the only two projects the team was working on at the time. Since then, they've been intentionally starting many large projects and working on all of them at once. In the year 2022, RGG Studio announced 3 separate full-price video games in the span of a month: Ishin Kiwami, Gaiden, and Infinite Wealth. Before the last 2 of these released, they already began work on 2 more games: Pirate Yakuza and Stranger Than Heaven. Somewhere in that time frame, the team also started getting involved with continuing the legendary fighting game franchise, Virtua Fighter. And finally, when Stranger Than Heaven and Virtua Fighter became the only 2 projects left in development, Kiwami 3 and Dark Ties began production. As an outsider, I can't be sure what caused this decline in polish and care that we've been seeing this past half a decade. But I believe that the amount of large projects in development at once by only 300 people in a very short amount of time is a significant part of this. I'm sure that if Kiwami 3 didn't exist and Dark Ties was the only game coming out on February 11th, then it would be polished. I'm sure that it would surprise me with some fire ideas, but that's not the timeline that we are living in. The gameplay of Dark Ties is visibly rushed, but fine. And Kiwami 3 itself is a joke that skips over 20 years worth of slow improvements made onto the franchise. I genuinely believe that it's the worst combat system that they have made to this day.